World Oceans Day. Today is World Oceans Day, and so today the Science Live that I'm going to do is about plastic pollution, because it is something that I have spent a lot of time working on, and something that I have come to learn is even more important than we're made to think it is by the media. I mean, some people think, oh, it's a fad, and like people are getting too upset about it. They're not. If anything, people still are not upset about it enough. So anyway, today it's going to be about plastic. Are we breathing in plastic is the big question. And thanks so much for coming, everyone. If this is your first time on Aim High Live, then do ask questions whenever you want. This will take the kind of, I've got a plan, but it will also take the direction that people want to take it in. So throw questions in. Ask me things you've always wanted to know about plastic and the science of stuff related to that, or anything, to be honest, and we'll see where it goes. Yes, I will just quickly say hi to people, because there's loads of people on the chat already. 1 Million Sloths is here, Vendible Sugar, Oliver's here, Izzy Rose is here, Zanon is here, Leonardo, Jasmine, Posey Joe, Maddie is here, the list goes on. Hi Kieran, all right, hello. Okay, so, Japan Maple is saying someone have a ladle. I don't get it. Oh, Oliver's here as well. Anyway, right, so are we breathing in plastic? I'm just going to switch over to here. So this is a man with a huge, what is this that he's got? What's he wielding here on his kind of trolley thing? What's this? And this, so yeah, today, as I said, it's going to be about plastic. Are we breathing in plastic? Because of course today is, as I said as well, hashtag World Oceans Day. We could not live without the oceans, but the oceans would easily and happily survive without us. And we do not look after the oceans at all. In fact, the reason why is because we've always thought of the oceans as being this ridiculously huge thing that is far too big for us to ever change. So why does it matter if we just throw a bit of rubbish into the oceans? And that's been the philosophy forever. And it's only now that we're starting to realize, oh my God, we've actually become so influential on our planet as a species that we are starting to destroy the oceans. But anyway, yeah, so today is, are we breathing in plastics for World Oceans Day? But first we're going to ask, what is this? And Pumpkin Mustard saying, is it a big cucumber? And Posey Joe saying, it is a vegetable. It is a vegetable. It looks like a fat pumpkin, which is long and green. It's a marrow. Yeah. Yeah, it is a prize. It is a prize marrow. Oh, Jasmine skipped through. Yeah, this is a big old marrow. Oh, I'll do it in a different colour. Why are humans so obsessed with growing giant versions of vegetables? I don't know. It is just a thing. Now, the reason I wanted to start with a crop, even though we're talking about plastic and breathing it in, and we're talking about the oceans, is because I think that a lot of this story begins of how we treat our oceans with thinking about how we treat other things. And so I wanted to talk to you about like two examples, and one of them is the soil, and the soil is something I've spoken about a little bit before. Right, now if you're a farmer and you want to grow as many crops as possible on your soil, and your aim is to grow as much as possible, you want to grow a large number of crops so that you can sell them all and continue to run your farm, then what should you do to your soil? What are the main things that you're going to do to your soil so that you can grow as much as possible on it? Yeah, what do you do to your soil? What do you do to your soil as a farmer? To make it as good as possible. What do you guys think? Throw your thoughts into the chat. And yeah, if you are joining late, then welcome. This is an Aim High Live, so you can ask questions whenever you want. And today, this one is about, are we breathing in plastic? But we're just starting out the story, talking about this guy, I didn't find out his name actually, but when I went on the web to find pictures of prize-winning massive marrows, this guy came up multiple times in different poses with different marrows. So he's clearly been in the large marrow game for time. Anyway, so yeah, what do you do to your soil if you're a farmer and you want to grow as many crops as possible? So people are talking about fertilizers. Someone's saying bone meal and manure. People are saying compost. Angel's saying he looks so proud of himself. Of course he does. Look at him. He's an absolute winner. Let's give him a little baseball cap. There we go. Good lad. He can have one of those baseball caps with a see-through visor so that he can still see upwards for things above. Okay, so quite a lot of people are saying, yeah, bone meal and manure, or maybe that's 1 million slots who's posted that multiple times. Yeah, fertilize it or leave it alone. Oliver's saying bone meal on Minecraft. I've played Minecraft quite a few times, but I've never used, is bone meal a thing that you use to fertilize the ground on Minecraft? I haven't seen that. But yeah, Oliver's saying an unhealthy amount of fertilizer is what people tend to use. So farmers tend to use a ton of fertilizer in order to make their soil grow more crops. Oh wait, I'm a bit dyslexic, so sometimes I just miss out letters. In fact, I was going through some of my old school books over the past couple of days, and I was just like, I can't believe that no one realised how dyslexic I was that early on in life. I was so bad at spelling. Even in like year 8 and 9, I was just doing the most ridiculous spelling mistakes. Anyway, add loads and loads of fertilizer to soil in order to grow extra crops. So that's the theory, and the idea goes that you put like loads of chemicals on these chemical fertilizers. Do people know what elements of the periodic table are the main ones that go into fertilizer? What are the main elements? What do people think? I'll just wait for this to come in. But nitrogen. Yeah, nitrogen is one of them. Phosphorus is another one, and potassium. Great. Yeah, NPK is the general way of remembering it. Yeah, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. These are the main elements that we put on the soil. Remember that plants don't get their food from the soil. Plants make their own food, mainly from sucking in carbon dioxide. And so they're basically building themselves using air and sunlight to turn the carbon dioxide into wood and, well, sugars and matter and stuff. But they need some minerals from the soil. And the main ones they need are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So humans, us guys, we were like, right, we're pretty clever. So we figured out that this is what the plants want. So let's just give it to them. Let's give them nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And that has been the theory of farming for many decades now. And so in order to grow loads of crops, we just throw loads and loads of those chemicals onto the ground. And lo and behold, we get huge crops. We can grow things like much larger marrows, we can grow crops a lot faster, and so on. And this is great, and it carries on being great for ages. And then what happens? What do you guys think happens after we've been doing this for a few years or a few decades? Oliver's saying potassium is in bananas. So yeah, that's right, there is loads of potassium in bananas. In fact, that's part of why bananas are quite radioactive. Like a banana is more... Yeah, like the kind of passive radiation you get from a banana is greater than like walking past a nuclear power station, a modern nuclear power station. Yeah, bananas are a bit radioactive, but also really delicious. So, okay, so Kieran's saying turns out the soil isn't quite so simple, and Oliver's saying depletion of soil nutrients. And Zaynon's saying, can you stuff bananas in the soil? You can theoretically put bananas in the soil and let them rot away. Although it would be better to let them rot without access to oxygen. So you let them rot anaerobically, which would be, you just basically put them in a big pile so they can't access any oxygen, and then they'll produce a better compost. But yeah, it turns out the soil is not so simple. So the soil has loads of other problems where if you just add all these chemicals year after year, then that you kill off loads of the living things in the soil. And so the human assumption was the plants need nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, let's give it to them, and then like that's what's important. And what we didn't realize is that in order to produce a large amount of crops over a long period of time, it's much more important to keep the soil alive, and then the soil will look after the plants for us. So it's much more important to keep the soil alive. Now, this is something that we now kind of understand or are starting to understand. And yet, most farmers in the world are still yet to catch up on this news, as is like a lot of the scientific community as well. These things take a while to spread the word about, which is really painful because this is really damaging the world at the moment, the fact that people are treating soil really badly. But the reason I talk about this is because, yeah, the soil is being treated terribly, things are declining and getting worse, and yet we know the solution, but we're still not doing anything about it yet. It's not that we're not doing anything about it, it's that we're not doing anything about it fast enough. The point being that like often humans get things very wrong even when we think we're doing things right, and it'll take a long time to convince farmers that they need to massively reduce their use of chemical fertilizers and use different methods instead. Right, another example of humans doing things wrong. Here is someone dressed up as a doctor recommending cigarettes because back in the day when they were first advertising cigarettes, they were like, hey, let's get doctors to advertise these because people trust doctors. And I don't know, I don't even know if there were real doctors or dressed up doctors or however it worked, but still there was a long period of time when people were convinced that smoking was healthy. And even though there were a lot of scientists who were starting to have suspicions that it wasn't healthy, why do you think a lot of those scientists might not have done anything? Or sorry, not done anything, but why is it that sometimes when a load of scientists know that something is bad or should be done differently, or at least they feel very strongly about it, why do they not speak out? Why do scientists not speak out about issues sometimes? Split that up. Here we go. So yeah, why do scientists sometimes not speak out about issues like smoking, or like the kind of earlier era of climate change, or even now with climate change, where a lot of scientists kind of will not say things even though people would trust them. So Oliver's saying it's because we live in a society. Posey Joe is 6, they like a good cigarette. 1 Million Sloths saying powerful industries would create a lot of backlash against those scientists. Yes, exactly. So powerful industries are often able to make a nightmare for scientists who are trying to speak out about things that are true because it's not so profitable for the industries. So yeah, a lot of the things that people are saying are to do with large, powerful companies kind of pushing back against the scientists, and that is one thing, that is one element. But another element of this that is really, really important, which I've come into contact with so many times in life now, is that scientists don't like to act on something sometimes. If there isn't a really solid scientific paper or piece of research that's been done that they can then attach their opinion to, because the problem is that the entire reputation of a scientist is based on the fact that they always do their utmost to speak the truth and to do things in a well-researched way. And so for a scientist so what's really interesting, so going over to climate, because that's something I have more experience of, is that sometimes in the past I've spoken to scientists who will make statements like the future is of concern because the temperature trend is tracking upwards as the level of CO2 rises, and these kinds of things that sound like quite grey statements but are actually quite important. But then you speak to these people in person and they're like, it's terrifying. The reality of climate change is really terrifying, and no one's doing anything. No one's doing anything enough about it. And these scientists actually get quite passionate when they're not talking in a kind of broadcast medium, because they don't have to worry about risking their reputation by saying something that actually turns out to be slightly off, that hasn't been properly researched. Anyway, the reason why I don't smoke. Smoking is just such a terrible thing. Before we move on and go, because I'm about to move on to the plastic section now. But before we move on, my sister, who's a doctor and very clever, there are just two main things which she goes on and on and on about because of the incredibly huge correlation between these things and living a healthy, long life. And the two of them are like exercise loads. She's always telling me that I should exercise more, and I love exercise, but she loves it even more. But exercising loads and not smoking are two of the main things for just actually living a long, healthy life where you don't deteriorate as you get older. So this would be my piece of advice for life, rather than copying this guy. Anyway, right, so let's move over to here. This is Los Angeles. Los Angeles is on a flat plain with the kind of mountains in the background. In Los Angeles, how much plastic do you guys reckon enters the ocean each day in kilograms? So how many kilograms of plastic blows into the ocean just from Los Angeles each day? And if you've seen my film about plastic, you'll already know this number. Sean and Toast saying, God, I wish everyone would do the right thing. I hate that we even have to argue about climate change. I know, but unfortunately there are a lot of very greedy people in the world, and there are a lot of very ignorant people in the world, and that's why we have to work so hard to get the truth to people and help people to understand. Because something that I believe really strongly is that there aren't many people in the world who are like fundamentally evil. I just don't really believe that exists. I think that for the most part, people who do things that are bad do them because they go along with the stories that they tell themselves in their mind. And so some people manage to convince themselves that by continuing to make money and not worrying about the environmental consequences, it's fine because they're just a small person and it won't matter if just they're doing it. And maybe they're feeling like feelings of jealousy towards other people who've kind of managed to make a lot of money in life or something. And we need to get through to these people and change the stories that they tell themselves. We need to get these people to understand that actually this is far more important, and there's no point in even trying to set up a business to make money if there's not going to be a world for us to actually live on, a world that can actually support a decent human population. Anyway, so yeah, in Los Angeles alone, oh my God, everyone's like spot on with the numbers. You guys have all seen my film. Yes, there's 10,000 kilograms of plastic approximately that blow into the ocean just from Los Angeles alone every single day. And which means that probably you guys also know this stat too. Here's a baby albatross. I love baby albatrosses. And the nice thing about this baby albatross is that it's actually battery powered. As you can see, it's wired up back here in brackets. I don't really know what that battery is doing, but maybe it's running the film camera. Anyway, so so if you go and visit some of the like Pacific Islands and you investigate the albatrosses there, or you investigate the other birds. So the other birds that I featured in my film were the shearwater birds. If you go and investigate these birds, approximately what percentage of them do you guys reckon have plastic in their stomachs? So approximately what percentage of these birds do you think have plastic in their stomachs? So these are seabirds in the Pacific Ocean. These albatrosses might be as far away from civilization as you can get on Midway Atoll in the North Pacific. So Angel's saying about 45%, Oliver's saying 90, 1 million sloths 75. Leonardo said more than 100, not more than 100. LDBR is saying 10%. And yeah, it's thought that it's approximately 100% of these birds that have plastic in their systems. Obviously, like newly born, they're not going to have any yet. But the thing is, there's so much plastic in the ocean, and there's so much, and it looks so much like the kind of food that that the parents would bring back to regurgitate into the mouths of the babies. That yeah, it's thought that close to 100% of a lot of seabirds have plastic in their stomachs nowadays. Anyway, this is one of the things that we kind of worry about more easily, because we can kind of feel it, and we can imagine this feeling of having our stomachs full of plastic and having no way of getting rid of it. But it's actually not. It's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is something else, and it's kind of caused. Well, let's go over here. Right. So this is the old Pacific Ocean. Now, has anyone heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Has anyone heard of this? Does anyone know what it is? And Japan Mabel saying, "Oh no, is this the garbage patch?" Yes. And Jasmine is saying, aren't there multiple different garbage patches? Yes, so it's thought that there are different kind of regions like this around the world, and I'm about to explain why. So Japan Maple is saying twice the size of Texas, and Angel is saying pretty much an island made of garbage. Afgham hasn't heard of it. We're about to talk about what it is. OMH NPH is saying, no, but I don't want to hear about it, sorry. And the way it seems is saying, is it the newest continent made of our waste? Retchi Proxil has put an emoji that I can't read because my screen is too light, but it looks like a smoking frog. And 1 million sloths is saying the size of Japan. Right, so basically you have these things called gyres, which is spelled Gyre. And a gyre is the consequence of an ocean current. So lots of the currents in the world go round in circles in the oceans, and the Pacific Ocean has a big one, or the biggest one, which circles like this. And because it circles, any waste that gets caught up in this region is kind of gradually sucked towards the middle until it ends up in a tightly spiraling kind of thing in the middle. Now, for a long, long time, and by the way, the atoll that I was talking about, which has the albatrosses on it that we were just looking at, is around here somewhere. Midway Atoll. It's kind of midway across the Pacific Ocean. So yeah, there's your atoll with the. So atoll, by the way, is a name for like a small post-volcano island, like a really small island in the middle of the Pacific. And anyway, so yeah, this is kind of the center. And so the story goes that there is this huge island essentially made of plastic that is twice the size of Texas, the size of Japan, and so on. Now, not too long ago, some people I know went, who work with the Plastic Oceans Foundation. And by the way, while I'm here, yeah, plasticoceans.uk is the best place for the best source for all of this information. plasticoceans.uk, run by my friend Joe Ruxton, who is amazing. Anyway, check that out later on for more information about this kind of stuff. But anyway, her and her team went sailing to this Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and they were collecting with like these sieve buckets out the back, kind of samples along the way to see how thick the rubbish got when they got there. Now, when they arrived, they found something really, really surprising. What do you think it was that they found? What did they find in the middle? Posy Joe is saying, get a huge net and pull that stuff out of the ocean. Well, Posy Joe, just about to talk about why that's going to be really difficult. And Japan Maple is saying you could catch other things in the net. And so that's another thing, is that there's a project called the Ocean Cleanup Project, where the theory is to have a big kind of sweeping net that goes across the surface. But it would destroy loads of algae and other crucial living things. But also there's another big problem, which we're about to come to. Okay, so Oliver's saying, did they find a new species on the plastic? And no, they didn't find a new species. Leonardo is saying, if I could get rid of one thing, it would be plastic pollution. That is a really, yeah, I agree. That would be, I mean, if I had one power, I would probably make it so that we could talk to dolphins. Because I think that would also help sort out the plastic problem, because suddenly everyone would be like, oh my God, the dolphin's telling some serious truths here about how bad this is, and we need to start actually respecting them. Also, I love dolphins, so that would be cool. Okay, Izzy Rose has come in with this is it, right, this is the situation. They arrived and they were expecting this big island made of plastic, and what they found was almost nothing. Now, I say almost nothing, so obviously, you know, there have been these rumours going around the world of an island twice the size of Texas, which is huge, or the size of Japan, and it's not like that. It's not like that at all. Instead, it's really, really sparse in terms of the large pieces of plastic. Most of the big pieces of plastic have sunk to the bottom. Really important, because that is one of the main reasons why we can't really do anything about this with a net. Like, there have now been multiple expeditions where they go to different places in the ocean, sink down a diver and find that the bottom is covered in plastic that is going nowhere, because plastic does not degrade. It takes thousands of years to degrade, potentially. But the other thing is, what is left on the surface is, rather than being big chunks of plastic, is instead like a tiny little particles, like a gloop of plastic. I'm just going to do it with dots. It's like a plastic gloop, just all over the surface. And that is a very large region, which I'm not sure of the comparisons, whether it's twice the size of Texas or anything, but that is a huge region of space that is covered in pieces of plastic. Now, the reasons why this is so bad is something I've kind of touched on in another live, and I'm aware that I'm running out of time and I want to talk about plastic in the air. But so I'll just very quickly let you know that the thing about tiny pieces of plastic is that they are essentially magnets for ocean pollutants. If you get a tiny piece of plastic in the ocean and you leave it in the ocean for literally like an hour, then the concentration of pollutants like dangerous chemicals, runoff fertilizers, things like DDT and so on, like ocean poisons, the concentration of those things on the surface is literally millions and millions of times higher than the rest of the ocean within just a few hours of those pieces of plastic being in the ocean. And so what you have is this huge cloud of not just tiny pieces of plastic that when eaten by sea creatures can't be digested, but they're covered in poisons. And those poisons, when they are eaten by sea creatures, which inevitably they are, then work their way up the food chain, because the creatures at the bottom of the food chain eat them, pick up the poisons, give them to the next level, and then the next level eats them, and so on. And eventually, which people does this end up with? So can someone name a land species that will particularly suffer from the poison that will be being filtered into the ocean food system by the plastic that we've created? Vendible Sugar's straight in there with it. Humans, exactly. Humans is going to be one of the big species that will suffer, because we are feeding plastic into our own food chain, because we are part of the ocean food chain as well. Now, the tiny particles of plastic, where do they come from? Quickly, let's just go over that before we do the last bit on plastic in the air. So let's talk about the sources of microplastics, because microplastics are the kind of really small pieces of plastic. Where do they come from? Has anyone got any ideas? What are the main sources? And obviously, just like general plastic in the ocean will churn it up and turn it into smaller pieces of plastic. But there are a few places where they come from very directly that go straight to causing this problem. Angel is saying, wow, humans are annoyingly careless. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to do with people not knowing. People don't know. I mean, you go to parts of the world where people still just throw plastic into the rivers and stuff because they're just like, oh, it doesn't matter, it's rubbish. And for many hundreds of years, they've always thrown their waste into the river. And when it was like the skin of a fruit or something, it wasn't so bad because it's an organic thing that breaks down. But now that it's plastic, you need to re-educate everyone. So basically this new technology of plastic has been introduced to the whole world, and yet most of the world, including most of us, is not educated on how to use it properly. Okay, so Oliver's saying toothpaste, and Oliver's saying some shower gels. Yes, exactly. So a lot of toiletries contain these things called microbeads, which you might have seen advertised a while ago, but now they've all been banned by the EU. Unfortunately, the producers of microbeads, a lot of them in the EU, have now just started selling them to other markets. Like they now just sell over to the Far East, and so they're still selling just as much as before. That makes up about 1/30 of all the microplastics in the ocean come from microbeads. Any other ideas of where they come from? Someone said synthetic fibers. Brilliant, OMH, NPH. That's the biggest one. So every time we wash our clothes, if you wear any clothes that contain any plastic at all, when you wash them, if you're not using like a really, really modern washing machine, because they've literally only just invented this stuff, then you will be leaking plastic fibers into the water systems. So yeah, clothes, washing plastic clothes makes up literally 1/3 of all the microplastics that enter the ocean, and a quarter is, no one got this, a quarter is tires. A huge amount of it comes from tires. Anyway, right, so to start to wrap this up, microplastics, when you create these tiny little microplastics in the ocean will continually churn them up until it's making them smaller and smaller and smaller, until eventually some waves clap together and a load of plastic rises in a spray into the air, and it's small enough that it doesn't come down. And instead, it just stays in the air and it starts to fill the air of the planet. And nowadays, there is so much plastic in the air that all of us, everyone watching this right now, is breathing in plastic right now. In fact, if you're in London, London is one of the highest concentrations of plastic in the air of many major cities tested in the world. It's higher than Paris, it's higher than, I can't remember the name of the city tested in China, but there's a huge amount of plastic in the air in London. Now, no scientist is standing up and say, and I know because I've been looking for scientists to try and stand up and make these quotes so that it can make it into the paper, but no scientist is standing up and saying, this is really bad for you to be breathing in plastic, and therefore we must do something about it. Why do you think no scientist is standing up and saying that yet? What do you guys reckon? Posy Joe is saying, I'm surrounded by fields, am I breathing in plastic? The thing is, the plastic is all over the planet, and so whilst it's much more concentrated in city areas, there will still be tiny, tiny traces of it all over the place, and the concentration is going to continue to go up. Okay, so 1 million slots is saying, are the scientists nervous? And Oliver's saying, no papers yet, and Oliver's got it spot on. And so is Mirs, not enough research. Not enough research has been done yet to show that plastic is dangerous when it's breathed in, and so it's kind of still in the position where it could well be like smoking, where it could be a much bigger problem than we realise. It's just none of the research has been done yet, and so at the moment we have to hope. I mean, in fairness, plastic is very inert and unreactive, so in that sense, hopefully it won't be too dangerous. But I was going to show you actually my film, but we've run out of time now. In fact, I might play you this bit at the end if anyone wants to stay. But I'll start to say, since I'm running over now, I'm just going to start to say goodbye to everyone and thanks for coming. But then after this, I'll show you a little section of my film about some of the dangers that we know of plastic already. But tomorrow coming up, we've got Hannah is doing What's the Geography of Race to talk about a lot of what's going on with Black Lives Matter in the States and now worldwide. I'm going to talk about why do beavers have so many eyelids, and Hannah Bolland from Oxford is going to talk about how we treat cancer. Nish is then going to do more about racial bias in philosophy on Wednesday. Josh is doing more of his like high school biology GCSE course, and then on Wednesday afternoon we've got Jane Goodall who is coming on, and that is going to be amazing. And if you've got questions that you want to ask her in advance, please send them to the Aim High socials, which are all Aim High Live. Send questions in advance there, and I will compile them and try to ask her as many as I can, so that everyone gets to ask her what they want to ask. Do say your name as well, so that I can say who's asked the questions. So yes, cool. Thanks all for coming. I'm just going to really quickly show you this this clip, and then I'll also give you, because the clip is quite bleak about the dangers of plastic, I'll also give you something positive to think about as well. Right, here we go. Let me pull that over here. So this is just like 50 seconds of me talking about some of the dangers of plastic that we know of currently. Okay, let me know if you can't hear this, but you should be able to hear this now.
Even the plastic we use has a direct negative health effect on us. It's well understood that polycarbonate slowly leaches a chemical called BPA, which causes ovary damage, decreased sperm production, early onset puberty, behavioural changes, and a weakened immune system. And about 95% of US adults test positive for BPA. PET slowly releases antimony trioxide, which is linked to increased rates of cancer, and DEHP is linked to numerous different kinds of cancer and is known to damage our livers, our kidneys, our spleens, and our bones. Polystyrene leaches styrene, especially when it's got hot food in it, and especially hot oily food. And styrene leads to sexual development problems and can damage our red blood cells, our livers, our kidneys, and our stomachs. The manufacture of PVC produces dioxins, which are the most cancer-causing chemicals that we know of.
Right, it is done. Let me just switch that off. There we go. Yeah, not in a bathtub. Heresy, I know. I've not been doing so many of Science of the Baths recently, but I'll eventually do some more. Anyway, so just one last thing that I wanted to leave you with, instead of leaving you with that kind of quite bleak ending info, is this. We could solve so much of the problem about plastic so quickly if we could just slightly change the laws. The thing is, a lot of laws already exist around the world to protect the oceans from materials that are hazardous. You know, like companies all over the world cannot just dump toxic waste of certain kinds into the oceans. So all you need to do actually is get all these countries, all these legal systems to reclassify plastic as hazardous in the ocean. And then most of the work is already done for you, because all the systems are already in place to make sure that it's completely illegal. It would be as illegal to drop plastic in the ocean as it would be to drop nuclear waste that's just kind of, you know, in unprocessed liquid form. This is what we need to do. All we need to do is change the legal system, and then we can actually really start to turn things around. And so the solution is maybe not as far away as we think it is once we finally get people on board and realizing how big a problem this is. So anyway, I'll finish on that, and thanks for staying with me for the extra 10 minutes. I know I went over, but I will see you guys tomorrow for my thing about beavers and eyelids, and do catch the others coming up. And yeah, I will just really quickly read through the chat, see if there are any questions that I missed, but thanks so much for coming. Thanks all. Angel is saying, how can we influence that? How can we get these laws to be made? And I think that's the kind of thing that has to be done through campaigning. There are a lot of people already like trying to build these kind of campaigns. I would say if you wanna get involved with that kind of campaign, then you should probably visit. I don't know what they're running at the moment, but plasticoceans.uk is the Plastic Oceans Foundation is kind of split across multiple different branches, but the UK people are the people who started it out, and they're the people who really know what they're doing. So yeah, plasticoceans.uk is a really good resource for campaigning and stuff. In terms of petitions, I think petitions are good in terms of building local awareness. Yeah, classify plastic as hazardous, and I think it's a lot about like building a movement, and every little helps. In that, if all you did was get your school or university or like people you work with or just group of friends like much better educated about it, then these bits of knowledge like start to fan out, and before you know it, a friend of a friend of a friend has influenced someone who's like making a TV show about it, and these things suddenly start to take off. So I would just do as much as you can to get the information out there that plastic needs to be reclassified as hazardous. Posey Joe's saying, how expensive is the new washing machine? And I don't know. All I know is that I remember seeing a patent was being filed because a friend of mine works in a patent office and told me that this patent was being filed for filtering out plastic using like a bubble technology in washing machines. And that was quite a while ago now. So I imagine it must be coming in because it's so important. But yeah, I'm not sure yet. And I think that was all the questions. And I'm sorry if I missed one. What was that film your friend made in the Indonesian river? Oh, that was Gary. I'm so bad at pronouncing his surname, but Benchagib. But his organization is called Make a Change World. Make a Change World. And they're working really hard at the moment on building plastic barriers across Indonesia. Makeachange.world, I think it is on all socials. So yeah, do check out his organisation as well, because they're working really hard to try and change things for the better. And Sean, done. Okay, cool. Right. Thank you all. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a nice afternoon. Farewell. Bye.